The night of senior prom had finally arrived, and the air buzzed with anticipation. Our high school gymnasium had undergone a magical transformation. The usually drab space where we suffered through PE was now unrecognizable, draped in twinkling fairy lights that cast a soft glow across the room. Blue and silver streamers cascaded from the ceiling, and balloon arches framed the entrance. The theme was Starry Night, and the decorating committee had truly outdone themselves, creating a dreamlike atmosphere that made even our ordinary gym feel special. The basketball hoops were hidden behind shimmering curtains, and the polished wooden floor reflected the spinning lights from the disco ball overhead. I stood in front of my bedroom mirror, adjusting my bow tie for what must have been the 20th time. My name is Alex, and to say I was nervous would be a massive understatement. My palms were sweaty, and my heart raced as I tried to perfect the knot. This wasn't just any school dance for me. Tonight held possibilities that made my stomach flutter with both excitement and dread. I had spent weeks preparing, saving up for the perfect suit, practicing dancing in my room when no one was looking, and mentally rehearsing conversations to avoid awkward silences. The source of my anxiety wasn't just the typical prom jitters. It was because of Ryan, my brother's best friend since middle school. Ryan, with his effortless charm and warm laugh that made everyone around him feel special. Ryan, who had been a constant presence in our house for years, joining us for family dinners and holiday celebrations. Ryan, who never treated me like an annoying little brother but always included me in conversations and inside jokes. And Ryan, who had absolutely no idea that I had been harboring a massive crush on him for the past 2 years. Let me explain why this crush felt so complicated. Ryan wasn't just any guy from school, he was practically family. He and my brother Ethan were inseparable, which meant Ryan was always around, making it impossible for me to escape these feelings. I'd watched him grow from a lanky freshman with braces into the confident senior who now captained the debate team and volunteered at the local animal shelter on weekends. His kindness wasn't performative, it was genuine in a way that made my heart ache. And the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled? It was enough to make me forget how to form coherent sentences. I had never told anyone about my feelings, not even my closest friends. The risk seemed too great. What if it made things weird? What if my brother found out and felt betrayed? What if Ryan was uncomfortable and stopped coming over? The thought of losing his presence in my life was worse than the pain of keeping my feelings secret. So I had resigned myself to admiring from afar, cherishing our friendly interactions while keeping my deeper emotions carefully locked away. The doorbell rang, jolting me from my thoughts. I heard my mom greeting people downstairs, probably the rest of our prom group arriving for photos. I took one final look in the mirror, straightened my shoulders, and headed downstairs, ready to face the evening with as much composure as I could muster. When I reached the bottom of the stairs, the living room was already filled with my classmates in their formal wear, parents wielding cameras, and the excited chatter of pre-prom anticipation. My brother Ethan was there with his date, looking surprisingly sophisticated in his tuxedo. And then I saw him, Ryan, standing by the fireplace, looking absolutely breathtaking in a perfectly tailored black suit that accentuated his broad shoulders and lean frame. His dark hair was styled in that effortlessly tousled way that somehow looked both casual and deliberate. He was laughing at something my dad had said, and the sound made my heart skip a beat. But as I got closer, I noticed something was off. Ryan looked slightly frazzled, running his hand through his hair, a gesture I knew meant he was stressed. His collar was undone, and there was no bow tie in sight. Our eyes met across the room, and his face lit up with relief. He immediately made his way over to me, weaving through the crowd with purpose. "Alex, thank God you're here," he said, his voice slightly breathless. "I'm having a crisis. I've lost my bow tie. I had it in my car, and now it's just gone. I've looked everywhere. I even went back home to search, but nothing. I know this sounds ridiculous, but do you have an extra one I could borrow? We're matching colors and everything, so it would be perfect." I tried to ignore the flutter in my chest at the idea of sharing something so personal with him. I only have the one I'm wearing," I managed to say, my fingers automatically reaching up to touch the navy blue silk bow tie that had taken me 20 minutes to properly knot. Ryan's face fell slightly, and I immediately regretted my response. "But you can borrow this one," I added quickly. "I can find something else to wear." "Are you sure?" "I don't want to mess up your outfit," Ryan said, but the relief in his eyes was evident. "Absolutely. It's not a problem." I was already undoing the knot, trying to keep my hands steady despite his proximity. The faint scent of his cologne, something woodsy and warm, was making it difficult to concentrate. As I removed the bow tie, Ryan stepped closer, and suddenly we were just inches apart. I could see the different flecks of color in his hazel eyes, the slight stubble on his jaw that he must have missed while shaving. Time seemed to slow as I reached up to place the bow tie around his neck. My fingers brushed against his skin, and I hoped he couldn't feel how they trembled. "Do you mind?" he asked softly, gesturing to the bow tie. "I've never been good at tying these things." I nodded, not trusting my voice. With careful movements, I began to form the knot, acutely aware of how intimate this moment felt. Ryan's eyes never left my face, and I could feel the warmth of his breath. The rest of the room seemed to fade away, the chatter, the laughter, the camera flashes, until it was just the two of us in our own bubble. "There," I said finally, adjusting the bow tie one last time. "Perfect." Ryan didn't step back immediately. Instead, he held my gaze for a moment longer than necessary. "Thanks, Alex. You're always saving me." There was something in his voice, something different that I couldn't quite identify. "It looks better on me anyway," he added with a wink, breaking the tension with his typical humor. I laughed, grateful for the chance to release some of the nervous energy building inside me. "In your dreams, Matthews." The moment was interrupted by my mom calling everyone together for group photos. As we posed and smiled, I couldn't help but notice how Ryan kept glancing at me, a thoughtful expression on his face. Each time our eyes met, he'd smile, not his usual broad grin, but something softer, more private. It made me wonder if maybe, just maybe, there was something more to his looks than just gratitude for the bow tie. Soon we were all piling into cars and heading to the venue. I ended up in the backseat of Ryan's car, along with two other friends. Throughout the drive, he kept catching my eye in the rearview mirror, making silly faces that had me laughing despite my nerves. It was these small moments that had fueled my crush for so long, the way he always seemed to notice when I was quiet or anxious, and how he'd go out of his way to make me smile. When we arrived at prom, the party was already in full swing. The music pulsed through the gymnasium, and couples swayed on the dance floor beneath the artificial starlight. Our group found a table and settled in, everyone buzzing with excitement about the night ahead. I tried to act normal, joining in conversations and laughing at jokes, but my awareness of Ryan's presence never faded. He was sitting across from me, and occasionally our feet would touch under the table. Each time, I'd quickly pull back, unsure if the contact was accidental or deliberate on his part. "Your bow tie is crooked," my friend Mia whispered to me, nodding toward Ryan. Or should I say, Ryan's bow tie is crooked? I felt my cheeks warm. "He forgot his," I explained, trying to sound casual. "I just lent him mine." Mia raised an eyebrow, a knowing smile playing on her lips. "That's very generous of you. And now you're what, going tie-less all night?" "It's not a big deal," I shrugged, though the way Ryan looked wearing something of mine felt like a very big deal indeed. "Well, he hasn't stopped looking at you since we sat down," she said, her voice teasing but kind. "Just saying." Before I could respond, Ryan stood up and extended his hand toward me. "Come on, Wallflower. You can't sit here all night. Let's dance." I froze, certain I had misheard him. Ryan wanted to dance with me? But he was already waiting, hand outstretched, an expectant smile on his face. With a surge of courage, I took his hand and let him lead me to the dance floor. The current song was upbeat, and we joined a circle of our friends, all dancing and laughing together. There was safety in numbers, and I began to relax, letting myself enjoy the moment. Ryan was a terrible dancer, all enthusiastic moves with no rhythm, which only made him more endearing. He wasn't afraid to look silly, and his confidence was contagious. Soon I was dancing just as freely, our group creating memories that would last long after graduation. As the night progressed, I noticed subtle changes in Ryan's behavior. He stayed close to me, his hand occasionally brushing against mine. When we took a break for drinks, he brought one back for me without asking. Small gestures that might mean nothing, but felt like everything to my hopeful heart. "You know," he said during one such moment, leaning close so I could hear him over the music, "I've been thinking about college next year." I nodded, trying not to show how much the subject pained me. Ryan and my brother were both heading to state university, while I still had another year of high school ahead of me. The thought of not seeing Ryan regularly made my chest ache. "I'm going to miss this," he continued, gesturing vaguely around us. "Miss home. Miss certain people." Our eyes met, and there was an intensity in his gaze that made my heart race. Was he talking about me? Before I could gather the courage to ask, the DJ's voice came over the speakers, announcing the last slow dance of the night. The upbeat track faded, replaced by the soft opening notes of a ballad. Couples around us moved closer, arms wrapping around each other as they swayed to the gentle rhythm. I started to step back, assuming Ryan would want to find his date. He had come with a girl from his chemistry class, though they seemed more like friends than anything romantic. But Ryan's hand caught mine, stopping me. "Dance with me?" he asked softly, an uncharacteristic vulnerability in his expression. Time seemed to stand still as I processed his request. This wasn't a group dance. This wasn't platonic. This was an invitation that could change everything between us. With my heart hammering in my chest, I nodded. Ryan's arms encircled my waist, and mine naturally found their way around his neck. We began to move slowly to the music, our bodies close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. The bow tie, my bow tie, was right at my eye level, and something about seeing him where it made this moment feel even more significant. "I have a confession to make," Ryan said after a moment, his voice low enough that only I could hear. "I didn't actually lose my bow tie." I pulled back slightly to look at his face, confusion evident in my expression. "What do you mean?" A sheepish smile played on his lips. "I left it at home on purpose. I wanted an excuse to borrow yours." "But why?" I asked, hardly daring to hope what his answer might be. Ryan took a deep breath, his eyes never leaving mine. "Because I wanted something that connected us tonight. Something that would give me the courage to finally tell you how I feel." The world around us disappeared. The music, the other dancers, the twinkling lights, all faded into the background as I processed his words. "How you feel?" I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. "Alex, I've had feelings for you for so long, but I never knew how to tell you. You're my best friend's brother, and I was scared of messing everything up. But we're graduating soon, and the thought of leaving without you knowing the truth. I couldn't do it." His words mirrored my own fears and hopes so perfectly that for a moment, I wondered if I was dreaming. But the solid feel of his hands on my waist, the earnest look in his eyes, this was real. This was happening. "I have feelings for you too," I admitted, the words rushing out after being held back for so long. "For years, actually. I just never thought you'd feel the same way." The smile that broke across Ryan's face was radiant, filled with relief and joy. "Really? You're not just saying that?" I shook my head, unable to stop my own smile. "Really? I've been trying to hide it forever because I was afraid of making things weird with you and Ethan." "Speaking of your brother," Ryan said, a hint of worry crossing his features. "Do you think he'll be okay with this? With us?" It was a valid concern, one that had kept me silent for so long. But in this moment, with Ryan's arms around me and the truth finally spoken between us, I felt brave. Ethan loves both of us. He might be surprised at first, but I think he'll be happy if we're happy. As the song reached its final chorus, Ryan leaned closer, his forehead resting against mine. "Can I kiss you?" he asked, his voice a gentle murmur. My heart soared at his question. "Yes," I breathed, closing the small distance between us. His lips met mine, soft and tentative at first, then with growing confidence. It was everything I had imagined and more, the perfect culmination of years of silent longing. When we finally pulled apart, both slightly breathless, the song had ended, but neither of us moved to break our embrace. "Want to get some air?" Ryan suggested, his eyes bright with emotion. I nodded, and he took my hand, leading me through the crowd toward the exit. Outside, the spring night was cool and clear, stars scattered across the dark sky like diamonds. We found a quiet spot on a bench near the garden, still holding hands, neither of us quite believing the turn the evening had taken. "So what happens now?" I asked, the practical concerns of our situation beginning to surface. "You're leaving for college in a few months." Ryan squeezed my hand reassuringly. "State is only an hour away. We can visit on weekends. And there's the whole summer ahead of us." He paused, looking at me with such tenderness that it made my heart ache. "I don't want distance to stop us from exploring what this could be. I've waited too long to find out." "Me too," I agreed, leaning into his side. "And maybe it's better this way. We can take things slow, figure it out together." Ryan nodded, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. I like the sound of that. He reached up with his free hand to touch the bow tie, a smile playing on his lips. Who would have thought a missing bow tie would lead to this? I laughed softly. "A bow tie you deliberately lost, you mean?" "Best decision I ever made," he said with no trace of regret. "Though I should probably give it back to you now." I shook my head. "Keep it. As a reminder of tonight." Ryan's expression grew serious. "I don't need a reminder, Alex. I'm not going to forget a single moment of this night." He leaned in, pressing another gentle kiss to my lips. "But I'll keep it anyway. Maybe I'll wear it when I come home to visit you." We stayed outside talking until the chill in the air became too much to ignore. As we walked back into the gymnasium, hand in hand, I felt a new confidence. There would be challenges ahead, telling my brother, navigating a relationship with distance between us, the inevitable questions from friends and family. But for the first time, those challenges didn't seem insurmountable. They were just part of our story, a story that was just beginning. The rest of prom night passed in a blur of dancing, laughter, and stolen kisses. When it was time to leave, our friends exchanged knowing glances as Ryan kept his arm around my waist, but no one seemed surprised or bothered. If anything, there were smiles of approval and whispered, "Finally," that suggested perhaps our feelings hadn't been as secret as we thought. As we stood in the parking lot saying goodbyes, Ryan pulled me aside for a moment of privacy. "Thank you," he said simply. "For what?" "The bow tie," I asked with a smile. He shook his head, his expression earnest. "For being brave enough to tell me how you feel. For giving us a chance. I know it wasn't easy, especially with everything complicated between us." I reached up to straighten my bow tie one last time. Some things are worth the risk. And as Ryan drove me home that night, occasionally reaching over to hold my hand, I knew with absolute certainty that this was one of those things. Whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. A borrowed bow tie had somehow become the beginning of something beautiful, something I hadn't dared to hope for but now couldn't imagine living without. The stars seemed especially bright as we pulled into my driveway, as if the universe itself was celebrating our newfound happiness. And when Ryan kissed me goodnight, promising to call me tomorrow, I knew that this wasn't just a magical prom night story. It was the first chapter of many more to come. Total_char_count, 18,856.